probably, by the time you dropped it, you had probably studied phonology. You probably started, like,
I remember in the beginning it was beautiful and like the history of it and how words can change over time and that. I don't know. I don't know.
that's what my degree is. I have a master's in linguistics. I don't think WU offers a linguistics class. I think
Yeah,
that's surprising.
it was a very interesting class, but it was so intensive. So it's like, that, and I had too much. That's why I had to drop it, but I really like it. And they didn't offer, they only offer, they don't offer every semester. It's like every semester, something like that, so I wasn't able to do that.
But it's offered through the English department. That's weird because a linguist and an English teacher are complete soulmate opposites. An English teacher's going to tell you how you're supposed to talk. And the linguist just describes how you talk.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's our home like this, because it's better about something about for actual, which specialist, but I believe she's but I think hers is on like the grammar side, not the.
Well, yeah, and you can do both. I mean, I'm a linguist in my heart of hearts, but every Monday I teach an English class, so I don't know how to talk to.
The other guy that teaches English, Dr. Martin, he does more with English, from what I've found, classes, it seems like he does more.
I can do grammar. Literature scares me to choose something. Poetry, just you show me the door.
That's actually what for my senior part, that's what I did. I probably
I'm so afraid of
my
poetry.
favorite.
I was a long-term son at Andrew Jackson for English, and I thought, well, these are seventh graders. I mean, I can Google this poem, the first poem we covered had a line, laughs like the letter K. I thought, and I couldn't figure out what that meant. That kind of stuff just scares me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, like I would after writing it. But not, I mean, I want to do more than that, but that's always my goal, so, is to do,
Wow.
There's a beginning to like.
That's scary. I think that's what I figured out. Googling this one point, I figured out that it's supposed to be subjective.
Yeah.
There is no meaning to what laughs like a letter K. It could be good. That's how you interpret it still.
Yeah.
I'm missing a part of my brain that understands that the letter fly that we just research for free. I just don't see it. Get
Do you remember who
that point? Oh, well, it was called Abuelito. Abuelito. This is a kid describing her grandfather. Hi. Abuelito. I remember who wrote it. So, tell me, they offer a linguistics course here?
Yes. I have English.
That's cool. And they said, what's the teacher of linguistics?
Dr. Del Toro?
Yeah, was Bishop Green in linguistics. I don't think WU offers linguistics. That's what my degree is. That's kind of my heart. That's fine.
Well, we're streaming it. But I guess if you need to add it also. So you have multiple choices.
is your native language?
Oh, Chinese.
Oh, okay, I want to say something. What, Mandarin or Cantonese?
Oh, Mandarin.
我叫 Lauren Smith.
Oh,
练习你很高兴.
oh. Yeah, that's
I've murdered it.
Wow. That's
Chinese is
That's great.
Chinese is a tongue language, so that means ma. It means one thing, but ma means something different. And ma, those are all different words. And she was very polite, but I murdered. I said 练习你很高兴 with no tones. Can you say that correctly? 练习你很高兴. That's how I should have said it.
Like there's a up and down. It's not like oh. But I understand that.
You know, when I was studying linguistics, I read that they had a lot of native Chinese speakers listen to something being read with no tones. 练习你很高兴, right?
Yeah.
And they all could understand. So when I studied just a little bit of Chinese at night once a week, I just disregarded the tones. I thought, I'm not tones, they can understand me without tones, which I should not. Are these all, 你好吗?
So cute. What I thought was interesting about it and because typically if you hear people say these things, you think, well, that's stupid, that's stupid. But then, like, the actual origin of words spoken that way, and then over time changed. So the people that still say it that way, when they go, but I can't remember the word.
Are you talking like the verb ask? Like in Old
Ask,
English,
yeah,
it was
that's
ask.
it.
Old English, it was ask.
That's exactly what I was talking about.
And so now it's ask, but if
And I
people,
think it was even Chaucer, like,
Said axe?
Chaucer used AKS. And so when you hear people say that now, you think, oh my gosh. But it was actually, that was the actual origin of the word, was axe.
yeah, that was the original word.
But actually not always people correct you when you speak something is wrong. People can understand you and they just accept that. Maybe they think that you're stupid, but they don't
Yeah.
understand that. Oh, so I don't know that, and just keep talking about it.
Well, along the same lines, I was typing an email to someone. I'm the event planner at Berry Hills, so I was typing an email saying, just let me know when you would like to come to Berry Hills to meet with Chef and me. And I said to the membership director, I'm about to send this, and she's going to think I made a mistake. Because everyone says meet with Chef and I, right? But it's me. So sometimes I feel like people think I'm stupid when they're the ones that don't know the rules.
Right.
So,
Well,
yeah.
even, and one of my friends, always talks about, especially like, Appalachian culture, the way that they speak, where they were isolated, their language is closer to, people that immigrated
Yeah.
there. And so, some of it is even, like Elizabethan.
Yep.
And so, also, everybody thinks, well, they're stupid, they don't know how to speak, things like that, but more so it's closely related to the people that
Yeah.
immigrated here, but over time, everybody's kind of adopted this language, and so then it makes people that were isolated sound. So it's just funny that the misconceptions, and until you actually study it, you don't
Exactly.
realize it.
Not to invite me back to talk about linguistics.
I would love to. That
I
would be
love
great.
talking about
I'm
language.
thinking this is good.
I love talking about language.
Me too.
And my kids are sick of it. Like, I was taking my son to get a haircut recently, and I said, now, how much does a haircut cost there? And he said, $12. I said, oh my gosh, Gardner, the way I asked that, up high like that, how much does the haircut cost there? That's saying, I know you've told me a gazillion times and I should remember. That's a very different question from, how much does a haircut cost there? You see? And I thought, isn't that cool? And he said, no, it's not cool. Anyway, you want me to start? I am Lauren Smith. I'm a graduate of the Protocol School of Washington in D.C. It is the only accredited institute in the country that teaches people like me, come in and teach people like you, business etiquette and table manners. It is the Cadillac School for learning these things. And my PowerPoint and your material was was researched and put together by the protocol school. This is not my material, so you're getting it straight from the horse's mouth. It's a good thing. You know, I would take notes. If you came here to learn how to be a better mingler, handshaker, small talker, you're not going to leave the room being a better handshaker. The things I'm going to talk about today take practice. So it's like this with a knitting seminar. You're going to hold the knitting needles and maybe do a couple of stitches, but when you leave the room, you're not going to be a good knitter. That's even not a very good metaphor because some of you already do shake hands, and you might have to relearn how you shake hands and practice. So I would take notes. Otherwise, this will be a big waste of time. A little bit about me. I do have a degree in linguistics, so studying linguistics does not mean studying foreign language. Linguistics is just the science of language. But yeah, I have a degree in linguistics from UNC Chapel Hill. I'm the event planner at Berry Hills Country Club, and I do this as a hobby. So, before I start, I'm going to tell you a very surprising statistic. Harvard, the Stanford Research Institute, and the Carnegie Foundation got together and did a study. And I want you to listen carefully. 15% of the reason that you're going to get a job, keep a job, and advance in the job is based on how good you are at that job. How good a PR person you are, or a businessman, banker, lawyer. 15% of why you're going to get that job is based on how good you are. 85% of the reason you get a job, keep a job, and advance in the job is based on your people skills, the things I'm talking about today. So this was Harvard, the Stanford Research Institute, and the Carnegie Foundation did this study, and I'm going to say it again. 85% of the reason you're going to be hired and the reason you're going to advance in your career is based on the things I'm talking about today. People dismiss this stuff all the time, but it's really, really important. My dad worked with General Motors, and he always said, give me someone with good people skills over someone who's smart. So this is important stuff. I've kind of cherry picked in your materials there. I've put two seminars together. The first half will do business etiquette, and the second half will do table manners. So I've never done one quite like this. I'm not quite sure of my timing, but we'll try to make it work. So the first thing we'll talk about, the new 3 R's. What are the old 3 R's? I don't know, y'all might not know this. What are the old 3 R's? Reading, writing, arithmetic. It used to be in school that children learned reading, writing, arithmetic. Well, the new 3 R's are record, recall, and recreate. Now stop right there. This was the first, what is this called? What are we looking at there? The first slide. Okay, we'll call it a slide. This is the first slide I saw when I was at the Protocol School of Washington. And to myself, I kind of rolled my eyes like, oh, please, don't tell me I'm in for a week of this. This felt very gimmicky to me. And I thought, and actually I was not in for a week of gimmicks, but I really didn't like this until I was back and I was preparing to do my first seminar, and I was working on how to teach people to remember names. There's someone in town who is unbelievable at remembering names. She's an orthodontist. When I took my daughter for her initial visit to get her teeth looked at, we probably spent 20 minutes with her name's Dr. Panucci, 20 minutes with her, at a tour of the facility, came up with a game plan, and maybe 3 weeks later, my daughter went back to get her braces on. And these practices, the main orthodontist doesn't go and do all the work herself. She has her minion. So there's this big workroom with like 6 people putting braces on 6 kids and 6 moms sitting behind these kids. And Dr. Panucci came in and she saw me and my daughter and said, "Hi, Lauren. Hi, Sage." And I thought, she probably reviews the schedule before she walks out here, which was good. That was fine. But about 6 months later, we ran into her unexpectedly at a restaurant. And do you know what she said? "Hey, Lauren. Hey, Sage. No, Lauren, right? Say, it was not, I was so impressed. And then she said, didn't y'all just get back from a trip up north? And I was gobsmacked. How did she remember? She's a very big orthodontist with hundreds of patients and former patients. She remembered that my daughter and I had gone dog sledding. I was so impressed. So I called her when I was preparing my first seminar. It was mainly about names. And I said, do you have any secrets? How do you remember names like this? And she said, no, honestly, all I can tell you is that when I am talking to someone, I am 100% tunnel vision focused on what that person is saying. And as she said that to me, I saw this stupid slide. I said, oh my gosh, she does the 3 R's. When we were telling her about going dog sledding, she recorded it. So that at some point, she recalled it and she recreated it at this restaurant, and it was very, very impressive. You know what she wasn't doing when we were telling her about dog sledding? The minute we said we're going dog sledding, what most of us do is in our mind we think, oh, I need to tell her about this husky that I grew up down the street from. You're formulating what you're going to say next. We all do it. Not Dr. Panucci. She's listening. This is one of the things you're going to have to practice. I still have to practice. When someone is talking to you, listen. Don't form your next sentence while the person's talking. You can carry on a conversation even if you don't do that, and it works out fine. But if you can practice this, this is very, very impressive with someone who's going to hire you. Let's say that, let's say Leah is going in for an interview. She's on her second interview with Hannah, okay? So Leah comes in and sits down and she says, hi, it's good to see you again. And Hannah says, fine, how was your flight? And Leah says, fine, fine. And Leah says, this weather is awful, isn't it? And he said, yes, it is. So there's the interview. And now Faith goes in. Hi, it's good to see you again. Hi, how was your flight? Fine. And then Faith says, you know, I was thinking about you the other day. I heard on the radio that the traffic in Atlanta, Georgia is the worst traffic country. And I remember you said you went to Emory. Did you find the traffic bad when you were here? That is so much more impressive than just talking about the weather. Faith listened to Hannah and recorded and remembered things. And when you say things like that to someone that you remember what they said, it's so impressive. Don't you all have a friend who does this? You know someone who just listens to you and always remembers? I do. Her name's Arlene Davis. She remembered everything. And this was way before I took this. No, but there are some people who are naturals. Anyway, that can be very impressive in the business world. 3 R's. We all have a presence. I read somewhere, and this is not the Protocol School of Washington, this is something I read, so it might not be the gospel, but that 98% of the opinion someone forms about you happens in the first few seconds that you meet. If that's the truth, then you want to take advantage of that. You want to kind of trick them into thinking maybe you're something you're not. But your presence is the first thing they notice. Your presence is comprised of different things. Eye contact. I can point this and it still changes. The entrance you make, I'll talk about that in a minute. Your handshake, very important, we'll talk about. Your posture. I struggle with my posture, but you better believe the first 5 seconds I meet someone, I'm going to try to stand up straight, so maybe trick them into thinking I have good posture. I don't know. How you introduce yourself and introduce others. So let's start with eye contact. In the United States, this is different all over the world, you want to maintain eye contact 40 to 60% of the time. Any more than 40%, any more than 60%, the person starts to feel nervous. And any less than 40%, and you seem like you're dishonest. But so it's 40 to 60% of the time. In a business situation, you want to picture a triangle between the person's eyes and keep your focus there. If it gets lower, it's becoming more of a social situation, and that's not as professional. Lower than that, and it's becoming intimate, and that's definitely a no-no in the business world. Keep your eyes right here. Don't let them flip down. Making an entrance. If you find yourself going to a conference or a convention, one of the most important things you do when you get there is actually enter the room. Here's why. Studies have shown that everyone in the room is watching the door. So take advantage of that and make a very powerful entrance, like you're somebody important. What you don't do is open the door and head straight for the food with your head down. The Protocol School of Washington teaches it teaches. Let's pretend like the door's right here. Everyone's watching this door. Everyone's watching, so take advantage of it. You don't just walk in and go straight for the food, okay? They say, go through the door, take a couple of steps to the right, and pause. Look around the room, make eye contact with someone, pretend to make eye contact with someone, but just get a feel for the room. That's a much more powerful entrance, and people will think that you're somebody important and confident. If you, before you go to this conference or convention, you know, like I know I want to meet Hannah, I want to meet Candy. If you have something in mind, like a purpose, you'll look more purposeful when you enter the room. Already I'm looking for Candy, Hannah, looking around. Obviously, that's not the way you would enter a room for a job interview. You're not going to go into Hannah's office and walk in and take a step to the right and pause. That would be creepy. Let's see. Okay. Small talk. It's a necessary evil. It is something we all have to do. I don't know if there are many people on the planet that like small talk. Do you like small talk? Yeah. It's a necessary evil. It breaks the ice. It establishes a connection. I think this is another typo. I've decided, Hannah. I think the protocol school meant to say it doesn't require original or profound thought. You know, small talk doesn't require you to be that smart. It's the polite thing to do. I never remember if this is a slide. I think that this next one is something I want to tell you. Very, this is near and dear to my heart, my parents. Everybody. Okay, no, we're not there yet. Be well informed, focus on the other person. Okay, we're not there yet. Before you go to an event and you know you're going to be small talking, why don't you read a Newsweek, a Time magazine, something, and get a couple of topics in your back pocket that you can pull out so you don't have to talk about the weather. Something safe like the Olympics or something in the news now. Like what's been in the news? I used to tell people, well, this is interesting. This woman named Lynn Hildebrandt Googled her name, and she found a man with the same name, and they got married. They were in different states, and I just heard they're divorcing. Just have a couple of topics you can talk about before you get there. Focus on the other person. I had a neighbor in New Jersey. I lived across the street from her for 4 years, and not once did she ever ask me anything about myself. Never. She was a nice person, but we would have a conversation, and there were no questions about me. So we were at school to pick up our kids after school. And we had just finished winter break. They had gone to Utah to ski. I had gone dog sledding, and so I saw her in the parking lot. Donna, how was skiing? Oh, it was great. We had so much fun. Not one question to me about my dog sledding. Try to make sure that you focus on the other person when you're talking. Don't interrupt, and don't finish people's sentences with them. Probably all know someone who does this. My Aunt Caddy and my doctor do this, and it bugs me so much. I end up not really even concentrating on what I'm saying so much as trying to change at the very end to thwart this person who's trying to finish my sentence with me. Do listen again. Think before you speak is written in the spirit of. I'll give an example. In English, in college, I had an English professor, Mr. Parcels. Sometimes I would say things to him, and he would pause before he answered, and I just thought he was so smart and gave everything a lot of thought. Like I would say, which I did actually say, Mr. Parcels, I don't think her mother is a direct object in that sentence. And he would say, no, I disagree with you. And that pause there made me think he was really smart. Every now and then, pause before you speak. You come across as being more deliberate and just smarter. Let's see. No, why is it not going? Maybe it has to be over here. Well, I can just use this one, right? Yeah. Okay, here we go. Now here's what I want you to know. Believe it or not, nobody cares about your thyroid medication. They don't. Nobody cares about your bad back. Okay? Do not talk about your health or your diet habits. We don't want to know that you're lactose intolerant. That's what I say that because my parents, when I call them, all they talk about is their health. That's one thing with family, but in the business arena, don't talk about your thyroid medication. Please, don't. Still, just, I guess maybe the battery died. Next. Don't talk about the cost of things. It's tacky. I got my room for $49 tonight. You know, $49 a night. How much was yours? In the business world, it's just tacky. Personal questions. This always blows my mind. In England, it's considered a personal question to ask someone what he or she does for a living. What else do you ask someone? Personal questions here: how old are you? How much do you weigh? And that kind of stuff. Mean gossip and off-color jokes. Did you fix? What, had I done something wrong? Okay, next. Controversial issues. You know, don't talk about religion or politics in the business arena. Before you go to an event, eat a small amount of food. You were not invited to this because they thought you were hungry or thirsty. Don't do, I'm prone to do it too, just stay at the food table all night. Don't do it. Not professional. Think about the key people you would like to meet at this convention or this meeting that will make you feel like you have more of a purpose. You should introduce yourself to your peers. We're not going to practice this. Usually at this point we practice joining a conversation, but because of the table manners, I'll just tell you, it's easier than you think to walk up to people and say, may I join you? The protocol school says, try to approach 3 people, not 2. 2 people could be having a fight or an intimate discussion, but 3 people is pretty safe. The protocol school didn't say this, but here's what I say. If you walk into a room, rather than going up to 3 people and saying, hi, may I join you? My name is Lauren. What if Leah's standing there like this, all by herself? Go up to Leah and say, hi, may I join you? My name's Lauren. Leah will think you're the Messiah, right? Cut your teeth on one person. But it seems scary to think about going up to strangers and saying, may I join you? Saying your name, but the bridge will be there. People are not troglodytes. It's actually easier than you think. So avoid the obvious as the 2 people. Always shake hands, and we're going to talk about shaking hands. You should never hug anyone in the business world. If it's a small gathering, you should talk to everyone there. Introduce yourself. If it's a big gathering, just the key people. You need to sing for your supper. You need to introduce yourself. You can't expect the host to walk around and introduce you. So, okay. Handshaking. Handshaking is so important in almost every country. It's very important. My sister pointed this out. We used to do seminars together. People might not notice a good handshake, but they will notice a very bad handshake. They will. It's a form of communication that is understood all over the planet. And it's the only skin-to-skin contact that's allowed in the business world. This is so important. I don't care if your parents taught you that a woman shakes hands like this. You were taught wrong. And I've done this long enough now to know that so many people taught their daughters to shake hands this way or to shake a woman's hand this way. There is one and only one handshake. One and only one handshake, and that is the handshake where the web of your hand connects to that web on the other person's hand. Even if you're at a bridal shower with high heels and hairspray and a flowery dress, that's still a handshake you do. The person who, nowadays, there's no rule. The woman can extend her hand first, the man can't. When I was really little, Mom said that the lady had the option. The lady was the boss. Like, the lady could choose to shake hands or not. Not anymore. Anyone can extend the hand first, and the person that does it first has the advantage. I can't stress that enough. Haven't you all at some point been talking to someone, and the person says, by the way, my name is Faith. Inside, don't you go, oh, why didn't I do that? Because now Faith is the boss of the whole conversation. So you be the person. You've been in this seminar. Put your hand out there and say, by the way, my name is Candy. That person has the advantage. So real quickly, obviously, all over the world, you shake with your right hand. Your left hand can have one thing in it. It can have a drink, a plate, or a purse. Keep your right hand free. You always wear your name tag on the right hand side, because that's where the line of sight goes. You come in, fingers forward, thumb up. This is how you're coming in for a handshake. You're not coming in like this. Web to web, we're going to practice that. You shake from the elbow, okay? Not from the shoulder and not from the wrist, from the elbow. 2 smooth pumps in this country, 2 smooth pumps. Shoulder to shoulder, which means you don't want to shake someone's hand like this. Shoulder to shoulder, you want your feet about 8 inches apart. You want to be about 19 inches away from the person in front of you. But that doesn't mean that you say, okay, hold on, wait. Back up a little bit. No, okay. Just in general, in this country, you're not going to be that close. If you tend to have sweaty hands, you can put a fragrance-free antiperspirant on your hand before the event. People don't like shaking hands with sweaty hands. If you're going to an event, try not to wear lotion that has, like grapefruit's purple passion or whatever lotion you can get at Bath and Body Works. Try to avoid fragrance. Don't wear large rings if you know you're going to be shaking a lot of hands. This has happened to me. You go to shake hands with someone and the person is missing his right arm. So you've got your hand out there and this person has no right arm or no hand. Just be aware, if you meet someone in the business world that has no right hand or no right arm, that person decides how you shake hands. That person might not shake hands, in which case you don't shake hands. If that person extends his left hand, then you shake his left hand with your left hand. So that person gets to be the boss. But it's awkward to put your hand out and then they don't have hands. So just be alert. I've already said the rules. Nowadays in the business world, the woman can extend her hand first or the man. Either one, but whoever does it first is the boss. So you see, number 1, you're coming in. You're coming in to shake hands. Number 2, the web of your hand is connecting with the web. 3 is a correct handshake. I cannot emphasize enough that shaking hands, well, I'll show you. Number 6 is a bad handshake. And if you've been shaking hands like that, most of the time, someone in the seminar will admit, a man says, yes, that's how I shake a woman's hand, number 6. I will see someone shake my husband's hand and turn to shake my hand differently, like this. It's just bad. Number 1, you don't want to hurt the other person. That's just being a bully. Number 5 is not career suicide. Some people call it the preacher handshake or the politician handshake. I wouldn't do it in the business world. The only time I would do it is if I saw someone who had just suffered a bad loss. Maybe then touch the other person. But I would avoid number 5 if I could. Okay, now we're going to switch to, this is what I haven't done before, is switch off. We're going to switch to table manners. But really quickly, why don't you just shake someone's hand and practice? Just turn around and shake hands and practice. Like, there you go, that's good. Shake. See, yep, so you want this part to, yes. Is that how you shook hands anyway? Before? Shay Shay. So, will anyone admit that before this, that you probably would have shaken hands this way? Usually I get someone to admit it, yeah. Okay, we're going to switch gears now and talk about table manners. I love talking about table manners. I've always been interested in table manners. Over the course of studying this and all my books, I have come across statements like this hundreds of times. People who are very high up in the business world say, for heaven's sakes, learn table manners. Okay? There are so many high up people that say statements like this. I have a friend that went to Oxford, and he's a heavy hitter now with Morgan Stanley in Chicago. And we were on the phone catching up, and it was this really funny conversation and lighthearted. And then it came up that I do these seminars, and he got quiet. And then he said, I'll tell you why I make my kids learn table manners. If I'm thinking of hiring someone, I'll take him to lunch, and if he makes one misstep at the table, I do not hire him. He was so vehement. He was probably spraying. He was. I said, well, can I quote you on that? So there are people, his name is Fabrice Brownrow. There are people like Fabrice out there who are watching you eat. It's more important than you might realize. So let's just touch on some. Okay. Let's just say you're going to lunch. You're being interviewed for a job. You do what your host does, and the host sits down, you sit down. And I think you have all this in your materials. When the host puts his or her napkin in his, look, let's just say your host is a female. When the host puts her napkin in her lap, that's when you put your napkin in your lap. If you have to leave the table, you put your napkin on the seat of your chair, not on the table, on the seat of your chair. I spent a summer in Japan, and they didn't have napkins on the tables. Do you have napkins in China? Okay, some yes, some countries do, some countries don't. In Japan, all the women had these little tissues. And so they would hand you a tissue to wipe your hands. The whole time I'm thinking, why not just use napkins? But, well, in this country, napkin etiquette is important. And believe it or not, okay, let's switch now from a business interview to a state dinner at the White House. You are not going to see a napkin like this, or a fan, or any kind of flower. A seriously folded napkin for a state dinner is going to look like this. Just folded just like that on the table. And the way, if you ever find yourself at a state dinner, I think this is very interesting. The way you take your napkin and put it in your lap is you take it by either corner, the crease is up here. And there's a reason. You flip it and put it in your lap like this with the crease against your waist. Then in your lap, you unfold it so that you're sitting now and the crease is against your waist. And the reason is, when you go to dab your mouth, never wipe. You're going to use the inside, and see where the crumbs go? They get caught in the crease and not on your silk evening dress you're wearing at the governor's mansion. It's in the crease. So, and you're using the insides to protect your clothes. Isn't that cool? I just never knew that. So what you don't do is, if you do have that, is this. You know, put it in your lap. No. So even when I eat, you do? No, that's not. So even when I eat out with my husband somewhere, I always have a napkin in my lap with a crease here just to catch the crumbs.
So if it is in the cup like that, how do you get it out?
Yeah. If it is in the cup like that, I don't know. I mean, I would just take it out I wouldn't do that.
Okay, because I was going to say, we were like,
No, if it's like that, I would just very quietly take it out.
Okay.
You don't want to really draw a lot of attention to yourself. Anyway, we have napkins like this at Berry Hills, and you can't fold them for anything. So there's a napkin. That covered everything. Just real quickly, the 3 B's of toasting. Begin Be brief, be seated. Nobody wants a long toast. My husband says that's 4 B's. And it is, but if you find yourself having to give a toast, don't fret, just be very brief. Everyone wants to start eating, no one wants to hear you talk, okay? Begin, be brief, be seated. If you are the one being toasted, let's say that Faith is retiring now, and I say, Faith, she's done such a good job for us, and we wish her the best luck in her new career as a professional figure skater. Will everyone please raise their glass now as we say congratulations to Faith. So we all have our glass up. But what is Faith doing? You know what she's not doing? She's not even touching her glass. The protocol school teaches don't even touch your glass because it's too easy to pick it up. You don't ever toast yourself. So Faith is sitting there looking all humble like, oh, you know. But when someone toasts you, you do not touch your glass. Okay? And it's something I didn't say. At some point, I should always say this. Now that you're armed with this knowledge, you can go off to a dinner tonight at the Chop House, and let's say that y'all are at a dinner and they're toasting Candy, and Candy doesn't know. Most people don't know that you don't toast yourself, so Candy raises her glass, and you say, you're not supposed to toast yourself. That's a no-no. The number one rule in etiquette, whether it's business etiquette, table manners, the number one rule is you don't ever point out someone's mistake. That's really important. If someone goes to shake your hand, you don't say, that's not a good handshake. You don't. You don't want to make anybody feel stupid. Okay, so that's the number one rule. You don't point out anyone's mistakes. I was in the Rotary Club and had to be the greeter sometimes. That meant stand out in front of the room and shake people's hands if they came in. And about 5 times, a man would shake my hand like that. And if that happens, like stand up. If he comes to shake my hand like that, you're stuck. You cannot, here, stand so they can see. At this point, just grab. At this point, you can't insist. You cannot do anything. You're stuck. You have to shake hands this way, and you could just feel bad about it. Thank you. You can't say, wait a minute, that's no way to shake a hand. You can't. You just have to shake. You have to do it. So don't point out mistakes. I think we did that. Yes.
Okay, so like you say, don't put the glass in like sort of like, oh, you know, congratulations, great, feeling grateful. Like, what if, I mean, if other people don't know that you're not supposed to toast yourself in the glass, like, will they be rude?
I don't know. I don't think they would. That's.
I didn't know that. I thought you were supposed to go with it.
Most people don't know that. That's a really good question. How would you feel?
I can hear my friends being like, well, we're itching, and like, we're celebrating you, and you're not even, you're just like, hey.
That, you know what it comes up to? I have brides and grooms at the country club, and there's a time when they toast. And because of the photo ops and everything, I say, just go ahead and drink. But, you know, no one's ever brought that up. I totally see where you're coming from. Just, you could make a joke about it and say, well, I went to the seminar and I'm not supposed to toast myself. You could just make a joke about it. I would still not toast myself.
You're not even.
Then say, well, I just learned that you're never supposed to toast yourself. It's like, you know, great me.
If someone will toast with the word like, you know, celebrate us or success.
That's what I was going to say next. Sometimes the toast is to everybody. You know, sometimes the toast is like, you know, then of course. But if it's a toast that, you know, if you're the guest of honor and someone is toasting you, then just don't.
I'm just trying to recall. Like, even if they don't drink it, like they would even hold it.
Yeah, don't
like,
do that.
thank you, or whatever.
You're not even supposed to touch glasses.
Yeah, that's what
That's what the protocol
I mean.
says. Yeah, and I was going to say something else about that. Oh, it's perfectly acceptable to toast with water. If you don't have alcohol, it's fine. When I was growing up, my mom said that was a no-no, but that's changed now. You can toast with water. There are 3, actually, no, that's very error. to my knowledge, there are 3 ways to convey food to your mouth using an implement on this planet. That's probably arrogant too. There are lots of cultures where they eat with their hands, and they're very strict rules. Some cultures you're allowed to get the first segment dirty. Some cultures let you go to the second segment. Some cultures all the way here. But we're not talking about that. We're going to talk about knives and forks and briefly chopsticks. The 3 ways to eat that I'm going to talk about are the American way, the European way, and briefly a little bit of chopstick etiquette. If you find yourself at a business dinner and you have a bowl of rice, if you don't know how to use chopsticks, of course you can ask for a knife and fork. But if you do know how to use chopsticks, you should know that when your chopsticks are not in your hand, they should be on the rest, the little chopsticks rest. You don't stick them straight up in your rice. That's a big no-no. And Japan, they say in Japan it's because it looks like incense at a funeral. Is that the same in China? You don't suck on your chopsticks. Yeah. You don't point at people with your chopsticks. You don't stab food with your chopsticks. In Japan, I don't know about China. In Japan, we're taught to eat that we lean forward to eat in the United States. In Japan, if you've got miso soup here, you bring the soup to you, and you eat like this. Is that the same? Do you bring the food to you in China? Yeah. In Japan, you don't eat soup like this in Japan. You bring them and you eat. But anyway, what other chopstick? Did I miss any important chopstick? The one sticking in the rice is the big important one, right? Okay, we'll talk. When I say styles of eating, all I'm talking about is how you hold your knife and fork and how you convey the food to your mouth. I'm not talking about napkin etiquette or anything like that. It's how you wield the knife and fork and how you get the food to your mouth. In the American style, which is also called the zigzag method, you hold your knife and fork in your hand like that. You cut your food. Come over here. Well, I'll stay here. You cut your food. You put your knife down. I don't think it's good. Does it show? Yeah. You put your knife on your plate, blade facing in. Blade is always facing you. There's nothing inherently disgusting about the blade facing out, but that's the thing that Fabrice Brown wrote is watching. That betrays a lack of sophistication if your blade faces out. In the medieval days, people ate, they cut their meat with their weapon. And if you faced your blade towards someone, it was an aggressive act. It was like, I want to fight you. And so it's just carried over that the blade faces you. And I'm telling you, that's the very thing that people like my friend are looking for. They don't want to see the blade facing out. If you still have food on your plate and you don't want the waiter to take your plate, but you want to take a break, in the American system, you have your knife, blade facing in, your fork about 3 inches away from your knife. That says, don't you take my food yet, waiter. I'm not finished. The position when you're finished is closer together. It's the American way. So again, the American way, you cut your food, you put your knife down. You switch your fork to your right hand, you put your left hand in your... I was taught in my lap. The protocol school now teaches put your left wrist on the table, and then you take a bite. That's called the zigzag method because it's a lot of putting your knife down, switching your fork, and then eating. Believe it or not, this system of eating is how the Europeans used to eat. Back around 1840, the aristocracy in Europe woke up and said, wait, this is crazy. Why are we putting the knife down, switching the fork? Why don't we just cut the food and keep the fork and eat with our left hand? And the descendants of the pilgrims who were in the United States in 1840 just never got the memo. So we still eat the way the Europeans used to eat. Here's how the Europeans, in my opinion, this is a superior way to eat. I didn't say this. It's perfectly acceptable to eat American style anywhere in the world. It's perfectly acceptable to eat continental style anywhere in the world. But if you start off with one style, you need to keep eating that style the whole time. So now this is the continental way. You cut the same way, but you keep your knife in your right hand and you convey the food to your mouth with the fork in your left hand times down. So the American way, you cut the food, put your knife down, switch the fork, times up, hold them like a spoon, eat. It's noisy and busy. To me, the better way is European. Cut, you keep your knife in your hand, and you eat this way. I like the European way better because you can cut one, then you cut one bite at a time. You cut your food, but wait. Before you shove it in your mouth, take your knife and push some mashed potatoes on top of that piece of steak. You can do that at Queen Elizabeth's table. You can use your knife as a pusher and push food onto your fork. So now you've got steak and potatoes. But don't stop there. Stab a green bean. Now you have steak, potatoes, and green beans. Don't load your fork so that you can't lift it. But you can put other things on there, and your knife is a pusher. And again, you could do that at President Obama's table. That is how you eat continental style. Okay? This takes practice if you're not used to eating this style. But I would definitely learn to eat this way and practice because I like this way better. I think we're going to have time for questions, so I won't ask if you have questions yet. This is how you tell the waiter, don't take my, if you're eating continental style. This says, don't take my plate yet. I'm not finished. They should have food on this picture, I think. So a trained waiter is not going to pick that plate up, but he will pick up this plate. This is just like American, except the tines are facing down. This is fun. This is what you would see at the White House.
So they were across each other.
That's the resting. That's saying, don't touch this plate. Okay? Okay. This is what you would see at the governor's mansion or the White House. It doesn't get any more formal than this. This is the max. This is the appetizer fork. Do you know why it's over on the right and not with all its buddies over here? For some reason, there's a rule you can not have more than 3 forks to the left of the plate. And the founder of the Protocol School of Washington is the one that came up with putting the cocktail fork over to the right in the soup spoon. It's a soup spoon. So this is a 6-course meal. I'm not good with this pointer, but I can't explain it. You're going to start off with an appetizer, and you're going to use the appetizer fork. Then the next course is soup, and the soup spoon is this big fat spoon right there. This next night, I didn't even say, most people know this. You start from the outside and work your way in. So we're starting with that cocktail fork. The next is the soup spoon. Now the next course is going to use the fish knife and the fish fork. A fish knife is different from a dinner knife. It's a real anachronism. Most people, I work at the country club, we don't own fish knives. A fish knife is pointed at the top, and it was designed for back in the days that fish was served to you with a spine in it, and you had to take that whole skeleton out. If you go to New York City or Washington, you will be given a fish knife. You hold it differently. This is a dinner knife, and you hold it like this because this is a cutter. You are cutting meat. A fish knife, you're not. It's a pusher, and you hold it like this. So you don't hold it the same way you do a dinner fork. This is how you cut a fish knife, like this. Hardly anyone knows that. You are a very special group of people. I ate at a restaurant in New York City, a seafood restaurant, one of the top 3 restaurants in the city, and I was the only one in the room holding my fish knife this way. Everyone else was holding it this way, and I just felt so smart. Okay, then the next course, European style is going to be the main course, and there's your dinner knife and your dinner fork. You're going to use those 2. In Europe, you get your salad after your main course, and so the next course is going to be your salad course.
But here, the just salad is a before.
It's always before. They think it helps with digestion. These are your dessert guys up here. And that's your butter knife. And we're going to talk about bread and butter in just a minute. Everyone's always embarrassed, like, I don't know which side my bread plate's on. And when you look at a diagram like this, you feel silly. Well, duh, it's on the left. But you don't sit down to a table like this. You sit down to a table crammed with these place settings. And this guy's bread plate is close to your stuff too. It's kind of hard to know. But one way to remember, not this, a lot of people know bread, drink, but Fabrice Brown wrote, will see you doing this. Think of the car and BMW. So you've got bread, meal, water, BMW. So your bread plate is on your left. So let's see. Soup. There is a special way you eat soup. You hold the soup spoon like this. Not like my husband, like this, but like this. You put it in the bowl in the center. You spoon away from yourself, and you sip from the side of the spoon. You never insert the spoon in your mouth. You sip from the side. You don't have to do that at Applebee's, but you should do that at a steak dinner. You sip from the side. If your spoon is not in your hand, it is never in your bowl. This is what you don't want. It is on the saucer. Unless you have what's called a soup plate. A soup plate is a very narrow bowl that has a big rim. And it's on a saucer too, but there wouldn't be enough room in between the saucer and the rim to put your spoon there. So the spoon can stay in the soup in that sense. But otherwise, if the spoon is not in your hand, it's on the saucer. You are allowed, I think there's a slide, you are perfectly allowed to tilt your soup away from you to get that last bite. As long as you tilt it away from yourself. You can do that at Queen Elizabeth's table. Oh, okay, well there's the fish. You see how he's holding the fish knife. Main course, we did that. Oh wow, I thought I did not have a bread slide? Let me tell you about bread. I'll go back to that picture. I thought I had a bread slide. Okay, the bread comes around. First of all, do you know what? If you were invited to the White House, you're not going to get bread. I have so many books that say, of course, in a truly formal meal, bread is not served. That's the only sentence, never why. And then I went and Googled steak dinner place settings, and I looked at the White House steak dinners. There's no bread plate there. And I don't know why bread is not served at a steak dinner, at a formal meal. I actually contacted the Culinary Institute of America in New York City and asked, and I got this long email back from the director saying, I know. I mean, I read that all the time, and I have no idea why. He thinks maybe it's one of two reasons. Maybe you serving bread is a filler. You want to show that you're so wealthy you don't have to supplement with bread. Or bread is the only thing you touch with your hands. Maybe if it's a formal meal, you're not supposed to touch. Anyway, I don't know. I do know that I've read that millions of times. But anyway, okay, let's say you're not at the White House and there's bread. Bread comes around and you take a roll and put it on your bread plate. Butter comes around and you take your bread knife, your little knife, you put a pat of butter on your bread plate. With your bread knife always blade facing in. When it's time to eat your bread, you do not saw it open, lay it open, and butter both sides. You take over your bread plate, you hold the roll, you bite off one bite-sized piece, you butter that one bite-sized piece, and put it in your mouth. So you eat it and butter it one piece at a time. That's really important. Fabrice Brown Road is watching you and is going to notice if you open it up and butter both sides. I was going to say something else about bread. Again, most people, if they sit down to a crowded table, they're going to be scared and nervous. They don't know which side the bread plate's on. You do now because it's BMW. And so let's say that Leah's sitting here, Candy's next to her, and she grabs a roll and puts it on Leah's bread plate. What does Leah do? Leah doesn't say a word. You don't want to make Candy feel stupid. Everybody's nervous anyway. You don't want to make Candy feel dumb. So Leah has a choice. Leah can choose not to take bread, or she can take bread and put it on her charger there. I don't like that choice. I actually called the protocol school and asked this. The protocol school said, you can take a piece of bread and use your charger. The reason I don't like it is an astute waiter is going to notice, and he's going to bring Leah a new bread plate. That's tacitly pointing out Candy's mistake. So I say just don't eat the bread and don't make Candy feel stupid. Protocol school says if you want, you can use your charger, but again. Yeah, but still, it's not as obvious. But anyway,
What are the forks?
this is where you're looking, going out. This is the appetizer fork. Then the next meal, of course, is fish and fish. So that first one's a fish.
Okay.
The next one is the main, is the entree, and then the salad. So I think it's almost noon. Any questions? I usually have a lot of questions about table manners.
And what's the one over top of it? I know that's the soup.
Dessert. Dessert's going to come in. People are going to bring dessert. When you're that far, all this is gone. The charger's gone, your napkin's in your lap, all the silverware's gone, and they're going to bring dessert in on a saucer with a doily. Well, wait, they're going to bring in a saucer with a doily on it and a finger bowl. The finger bowl is going to be a bowl with water in it and maybe a lemon. They're going to put this in front of you. Okay, so let's pretend that this has a doily on it and a water, okay? You take it and with the, hold it, do you know what a doily is? A piece of fancy paper, lacy paper. You take the doily and the water and you put it to the left, and now this is waiting to receive your dessert. The waiter will serve your dessert here, and then fork and spoon are for your dessert. Then when dessert's over, they take this away, you bring your finger bowl here, and you put your right hand in it, and dry it in your lap, and then your left hand. Dry in your lap. Any other questions?
So that is not a soup spoon then?
No, that's a dessert spoon.
Okay, it's over with the appetizer fork.
That's a soup spoon.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So where I put my glasses after I drink the water?
You put it back. Your glass is always on the right.
Always on the right.
Yes. And thanks. Here's something important that I didn't say. Try to get in the habit of dabbing or blotting your mouth before you take a drink of something. Nobody wants to see crumbs floating around your water glass.
Well, I always do some ladies that
Lipstick, yeah. Yeah. But always try to get the practice of like, dotting your mouth before you take a drink. I have a question for you. People don't know this. You're at Queen Elizabeth's table and you have a big old piece of gristle in your mouth or something that you cannot, it needs to come out of your mouth. You cannot eat this. What do? You don't spit it in your napkin because you're wearing a silk evening gown. I guess you could excuse yourself. You don't have to. You know what you do? They used to teach it comes out of your mouth the way it went in. So if it went in on a fork, then you spit it out on a fork. But if it went in with your hand, no. The protocol school says very quickly between your thumb and forefinger, you take it out and put it on your plate. And maybe try to cover it with a piece of garnish. Nobody wants to see this thing.
I was thinking something in your
No, it's in your piece of gristle. Just very quickly between your thumb and fork on your plate and try to cover it. Again, no one wants to see this thing.
Yeah.
If you spit it on your fork, there it is for the whole table to admire, right there. No. Thumb and forefinger on your plate. Any other questions? I think that was it. What this is saying at the end. It takes 21 days to start a pattern. So if you've been shaking hands this way, it's going to take you 21 days to start having a pattern of shaking hands better. 100 days before it's going to become automatic. You could forget most of this in 30 days. 66% of what you just learned could be forgotten. The bottom line is practice these things. Really, this is important stuff. People don't understand. Yes?
I have a question. Like, what if you meet someone and you, she told you her name, like last time, and the next time I meet her, I realize her, and realize her story, but I forget.
You have to say that. Say, I'm sorry.
Isn't that so weird?
No, you just, it's better than that, pretending like you know it. We didn't do remembering names, but I think this country, I don't think we have a problem with remembering names. I think our problem is we don't listen to begin with. An introduction is a scary thing that you just want to get through. So you just want to blow past it. I don't think you listen to the name to begin with.
I know yesterday in our seminar, yesterday, she told us, she told us to repeat it.
You can repeat the name?
And I said, you say your name's Lauren, and then I repeat it, that like reaffirms it
That
in
helps.
your mind.
Here's real quick. Definitely use the name. Okay, so hi, it's nice to meet you, Hannah. If you can, here's one thing. If you can ask about the spelling, that helps. Hannah, it's nice to meet you. Is that Hannah with an H at the end? Or is that, Stephen with a PH or a V? If you can ask about the spelling, that really helps you remember. Don't be creepy. I met this guy, Mark, and I had just come back from protocol school, and I said, Mark, nice to meet you. Is that with a K or a C? How many Marks do you know with a C? But I still remember his name. If you can associate this person with someone you know that reminds you, that helps. The most important thing is to stop saying you can't remember names. You can't. You need to listen. To me, this is not the protocol school, this is my experience. The number one most important factor in remembering a name is knowing, okay, an introduction is about to happen. I'm going to pay attention rather than just blow past it. Because so many times there's an introduction, you think, wait a minute, I didn't even listen to his name. If you stop and calm down and listen, you're going to remember a name. But then repeating it, yes. Yes,
Be like, oh, I'm sorry.
you have to. Yeah, if you don't hear it, hi, I'm glad to. Excuse me? I didn't catch that. Yes, and if you are misintroduced, if I introduce you as Carly, I'd like you to meet my friend Carly, as unpleasant as it is, immediately you have to say, actually, it's Candy. You have to do it. If not, this hideous scenario can just ensue. It's just horrible. There's a story, we had a party once and my husband was introducing this poor guy as Ken Norton for like an hour. His name was Tony Limo. And this guy never corrected my husband. So everyone was calling this guy Ken. I mean, it was just horrible. You have to correct him. Any other questions? Well, thank you.
Thank you, Lauren, for being here. Make sure you fill out your surveys that I gave you and just hand those in as you leave.
You too. Alpha. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was pregnant with my daughter actually, when everything was going through with the whole founding deal, so it was really hard to do that. But she is going to be our first. She will be our first legacy. So we're super excited, especially all of us, the founders, and then our class, and then a few under that. You're welcome. Because this is what we worked on, and she was the first Delta baby, and now she's actually going to be a real Delta. If she pledged, I think she'll pledge. She's excited about it. I think that will be a pretty big induction. I know a lot of the founders and the first class and stuff when they come in for that. And yes, yeah, I'll be around for that. Well, it was nice to meet everybody. And you're welcome. You're welcome. Oh, thank you.
Thank you for the women today and the last one. I appreciate it.
Nice to see you. I'll see you next week. Okay, thank you.
Hi, guys.
Thank Yeah. I never know why. I mean, like last year when we did this, I mean, we had bring-in chairs. You know, there were like 50 people. I don't know if it's the time, like this after spring break, and they're just not in the mode or what. But I said, you know, I promoted it exactly the same as I did the last one, so.
I forget, was it really April last year?
It was actually in the fall last year. And I moved it to the spring because I
I
thought,
lose track.
you know, because I thought this will be good before the career fair. So they're all geared up for the career
Yeah,
fair.
right.
So,
I imagine the coordination of events. I almost got that out.
you know.
Not quite, almost.
So we want to take those transferable skills that you have as an athlete, kind of read what you're applying for, what you're trying to do, and put those skills on paper that transfers over to what they're doing. Yeah, because really, we'd want to put like your cashier type of thing on there definitely as one thing that you've done. But then, you play ball here? This is your job. This is what you do, right? Because playing ball pays the bill to go to school. So we're going to highlight that as UC women's volleyball team, the dates that are on there, and then accomplishments that you've had under there, any kind of leadership that you've held in that, any kind of ability to break a record or set a record or help the team move into a playoff or anything like that that you've done that's been able to show that leadership, that teamwork, that quantifiable type of skill that we're looking for as well. Okay, so for you right now, that is your job. And it would count for that other activity type of thing that you've done. You wouldn't have to list it again. It's gonna kind of already count for that. Is that helpful at all? Okay. Would you tell her any different?
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we think about work experience like it has to be paid, and that's not true.
Right.
It's any experience that you can sort of relate back to your major that would be relevant for that employer. So that would be that athletic piece.
Are you just trying to score a part-time job right now for the off-season? Are you graduating or no? Okay. So right now we just need to get you some work experience during off-season. Are you staying, you're not from here, are you? Where are you from? Okay. Are you staying here during the summer or are you going home? So probably seasonal type of jobs is what you would be applying for, because you want to apply for things, and you always want to be honest with people that here's how much time that I'm going to be able to give you. If you're thinking just for a couple of months and that's going to be something seasonal, which they're going to need because you have graduations happening in May, Mother's Day, vacation season is hitting off, like it's going to get a lot busier. People are going on vacation, and so they may be okay, and especially since you're an international student, you say, I'm actually going to be home for about 25 days or 30 days or whatever. If you do well, they'll probably hold some hours for you if you're able to work them when you come back. And you want to build those relationships. You want to have those people on your side to be able to write those letter of reference for you. I know my daughter works part-time, even though she's an athlete, and the 150,000 other things that she's involved in. She still works 2 part-time jobs, and she does. They're generally at separate times of the year, but for a few weeks she does them together. But one is the Italian Grill in Taste Valley, and she didn't have really outside of babysitting any actual work experience before that. But because of her dedication, she was always there. She didn't call off. She asked things, what else can I do? What else do you need me for? If they called her to come in on her day off, she went in or she worked it out. Whenever she let them know softball season was coming and she wasn't going to be able to work, they sent her her last check and her W-2 and things like that, and this really nice card saying, you're a valuable asset to us. If you are ever looking for part-time employment again or blah, 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 please come see us. There will always be a job here for you. And that's what you have to start just trying to build those types of relationships. You're welcome. What else? So everybody's ready to go write in a resume. You're on it. It's going to be awesome. No questions. I'm scared out of your mind. 100% sure how to do this. Does anybody have a resume? Did you have to do it for class, or you did it for another job?
I had two classes, so I was in high school, so we had another requirement. I was great with that. I was like,
Sure. And that's exactly, and I know you came in a little bit late, Hannah has my presentation, so she can get it to you. That way you can go through it and see the types of things that you need to do. Okay? You weren't here for this, but it's built into my presentation. The one piece, the objective piece, that would be the one thing that I would say take off your resume. We don't need the objective on there anymore. Okay, so if you have it on there and it's causing you to be more than 1 page long, take it off. Yeah, that's an old school thing.
All right. Well, thank you for being here
You are
with
welcome.
us.
You're welcome.
Okay, everybody should have a survey in front of you. Go ahead and fill that out, and I'll collect those as you please.
Hmm.
I don't know if we're gonna get what we want with this meeting or event thing or not. I don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah, I don't know.
You can't just start it. It's almost like just a meeting that you schedule and thing. It's weird. I don't know what the controls are, if they would be any different.
What about those time sheets?